Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Lene Show. Thank you for tuning in today. There's so many things you could be doing on this lovely Wednesday, but if you're tuning in to me, I really appreciate it. On today's episode, I'm going to be discussing parenting. Majority of us out there, we are parents, and we all know the struggles that come with being a mom or a dad, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot emotionally, obviously financially, and every day, is a new day. Every day is a new struggle. I know I'm not the only single mother out there who sometimes feels so defeated when it comes to parenting. Just in case this is your first time tuning in, I do have two wonderful daughters. I have a 16-year-old who will be 17 in December, and I have a 14-year-old. She just turned 14 in March. So I'm very proud of both of them. The typical parent speech, right? I love them both dearly. No, I do. I love both of my girls so much, and to be honest, I can say that they definitely have my back. They're the ones who I know will always love me no matter what. And isn't that crazy about kids? Even as now, when you're an adult, like no matter what our parents do to us, we still love them. Even, kids who unfortunately maybe were abused or, adopted or in a foster system, regardless, we always love our parents. I think it just comes with that piece of you knowing that these are the people, mothers and fathers, are how you got here. Obviously, we know the women, we carry these babies, and truly without us, I mean, you really wouldn't be here. But at the end of the day, you have a piece of your mom, piece of your dad. And so I think that sits with all of us, and why no matter what, we strive so hard to be there and love our parents and try to forgive them for all of the things. And then vice versa, you hope your kids forgive you for all of the crazy things that you do while they're growing up. I've changed so much over the years. A lot of it had to do with me struggling, being a single mom and feeling alone. I got pregnant my senior year of high school, and I did graduate. I have a high school diploma, and I have a college diploma, and my daughter's going to be going to college. So I just want to say, statistic wise, guys, I'm definitely not a part of that lovely statistic they like to talk about. But I had her when I was 19, and it was a lot. And I was alone. And by alone, I mean not having, I was not with her father. We did not stay together. And, but I don't mean alone like just someone there for her, because I did raise her alone too. I know single parents are usually someone who's not in a relationship with possibly the father or mother of their child. But, I was alone, no boyfriend or girlfriend. Hint, no. And I had no friends after that. And it was really hard because obviously once you graduate high school, a lot of people, not everybody, but my friends went to college, some joined the military, and some just went on to get full-time jobs. And here I am, fresh out of high school, and I have a baby. You know what I'm saying? And it was hard because my mom, who, that woman and her, my grandmother, are saints in my eyes. My mom worked, my grandmother worked, and so they did not put me out on the street. I was able to stay at home and raise my daughter, and for the first 3 years of my firstborn's life, I did not have to work. I did go back to work for a brief moment just to see, but no, didn't work. And I appreciate that, and I didn't have to worry about anything because, my mom and my grandmother made sure I didn't have to pay any rent. I didn't have to do any of that. All they made me do was take care of my daughter, which obviously should not be the hard job, but it was the hard job. Being home with a baby every day by yourself. When I tell you, this is why I could never go to jail or to prison, because I don't understand that solitary confinement shit. I mean, that will drive you crazy. Yes, I had another person there, but she was a baby. She could not talk to me. She could not make me feel better about myself. She couldn't tell me that it was going to be okay, because of course at that time I'm thinking, what's gonna happen now? Here she is, few months shy, well, not shy, December, but she'll be 17 this year. 17 years ago, I literally remember being in the hospital after I had her, saying, please, please, let me stay here, don't send me home. And there's, it was like, you gotta go, you gotta go. And it was lonely not having anybody to talk to. And when my mom would come home, my mom would take over for a few, maybe an hour, because of course it's a baby in the house. And my daughter was adored by my mom and my brother, and they loved her, and she was this little tiny person. And so my mother would come home from work and she'd want to play with her grandbaby, and she'd do a little dance with her and rock her, and she'd let me get in the shower and maybe get an hour to myself. And then my mom be like, okay, well, now I got to get ready because I got to go to work tomorrow. My mom had to shower, eat dinner, pack her lunch, and take time for herself too, because she, drove all the way to work, was at work for 8.5 hours, then had to drive home, sit in traffic. And, her kids are older now. I'm 19. My brother, he's teenage. Like, my mom was like, I don't got a baby, and like I said, she definitely helped out a lot, but she had a life too. And then my grandmother also, she had a full-time job, and same thing. If she could help out, she would. But at the end of the day, I'm the parent. I'm the one who laid down and said, oh, this seems like a good idea. Let's get pregnant senior year. So it was really lonely, and no one really understands it unless it's you, obviously. Any teen moms out there who, we stuck it through and we raised our kids, and we didn't have the parents who let you leave them, and then you go off for hours and party and you leave your children, and the ones who didn't, whose friends, you thought would stick around but didn't. You understand it even as an adult. Maybe, you had your kids later in life, but still all of your friends, maybe they had kids early on, kind of like me, where now a lot of my friends are just now having kids, or their kids are like all under 10, and I'm sitting here with a 14 and a 16-year-old, and I'm like, they like, oh, I can't do this, I can't. I'm like, let's go, let's go do something, let's do a weekend somewhere, and they running around with toddlers. So it was hard in the beginning, just the loneliness. And then also I've been in some really bad relationships, honestly. It's just been one train wreck after the other. And I started realizing that I'm probably attracting some of these train wrecks. Like, it's not all them. I can't change who anybody is, of course, and you are who you are. But I start feeling like, you kind of attract what you're throwing out there. I don't want to feel like I'm attracting abusers or cheaters, or the ones who don't have any respect. I don't want to feel like I'm attracting that. But you start to wonder about yourself. You start to question, like, what, do I have a sign or something that says, yeah, I don't care how you treat me, just do you. I was watching Divorce Court. Well, actually, I wasn't watching. I was shown a clip from Divorce Court where, what's that judge's name? Judge Lynn Toler, that's her name. She was talking to a husband and wife, and I did not see the whole episode, so I don't know exactly what the husband did. I know he cheated. There was a couple other things going on in that relationship. But there was one thing that Judge Toler said to the female. And she said, when you've been in an abusive relationship, which I have, which in other episodes I have talked about, and just really quickly, I will say I was in an abusive relationship for 5 years, where I was physically, verbally, and mentally abused for 5 years straight, and it was the worst 5 years of my life. She said to the woman, she validated her feelings. She said to her, when you have anyone who's ever been abused, whether it was abused by your partner, abused by your parents, abused by a family friend, anytime you have been abused, it changes you. That changes the person um, that you could have become, the person that maybe God or whoever, it doesn't have to be God, but whatever road life kind of mapped out. And I don't believe that everything stays the same and everybody's life is already planned in the future. I don't believe that. I feel like events in your life can alter what may be life, God, Jehovah, Buddha, whoever you believe in, whatever the path was. There are things in life that can change that path, right? And being in an abusive relationship can really change you, and it can change how you see the world. It's like I said, it's no different than whether you're abused by family. Well, it doesn't have to be, when if you're raped, molested, any of that stuff. These are things that define you, define who you may now become, instead of becoming the person that the path was kind of set. You lose hope that you can trust people, that you can trust your judgment. So trauma in general just sits differently in anyone that has been abused. And I want to make sure people don't take it like, oh, if your parents spanked you, even though, listen, I get some people agree with spanking, some people don't. Some people are yelling. I'm talking about like abuse, okay? I'm talking about the hardcore, like I said, domestic violence, molestation, rape, beaten sticks and stuff by family. I'm talking about that kind of trauma. It sits differently with us, and it kind of shapes how you are, how you react to things, how you deal with things. And I know that because it's me. I can tell you the person I was before, I'm not that person anymore, and that person that I was going towards. And even in another episode where I talked about communication, I want to briefly just say, I talked about how my communication skills changed when I had my first real encounter with racism, and it happened my freshman year in high school. And so that kind of changed my form of communication and my form of defending myself and standing up for myself. But that still did not prepare me for the amount of abuse that I had went through those 5 years with the father of my child. It didn't prepare me mentally. That abuse is completely different. It completely changed my mind, my just how I am. And I've been through a lot in my 36 years. A lot. And I will, I will touch base on more things in other podcasts. I will talk about, my mom losing custody of me at a very young age and living with my grandmother and things like that. There's a lot that has happened. But when I tell you that this particular trauma, the abuse that I received from this man that I loved, that I have a child with, it just really impacted me. And I think I've come across people who just don't understand that or respect the fact that I move differently due to the trauma. I understand that it's not anyone else's fault. It's not anyone else's job to save me, but I feel like just as humans, to understand, to show empathy, to just say, you know what, I may not have been through this. I may not even understand why she has to move this way, but if this is how she needs to move to feel better, to feel confident, to trust, I feel like when you love someone, you're okay with that. You're okay with them moving in this way because this is the way that you need to move because of the trauma. And I can admit that my emotional state has yet to be repaired. I was on the verge of a very good repaired emotional state because as I've stated in other episodes, I did go to therapy, and I haven't gone in maybe about 6 months, but I was actively, especially once I left the relationship, I was actively going to therapy. I went for a good 2 years, going to meetings, speaking to other young girls, obviously about being a teen mom and being a domestic violence survivor. So those were things that helped me and definitely attempted to repair me. And then just seeing my kids happy, because when your kids are raised in that environment, it's very hard. You feel a lot of guilt. You feel like you got to say yes to everything. It's hard. It's a difficult way to go about things. And it's no one's fault by my own. I have to work on fixing that. I have to understand my flaws. I have to understand where I need the most work at, and I have to work through it. And I saw a quote, and I'm not too sure if he did say it because it's, online, but just in case he did, I saw a quote that Will Smith said,